Today, we're diving into the mindset of six-time Mr. Olympia, Chris Bumstead. I've been personally watching his content for years, and I've always found great inspiration and guidance in it. And to give you a better understanding, I'll break down the key traits that define his champion mentality so that you can apply those same principles into your own life.
You don't start something because you're passionate, you stick with it because you're passionate. So I kind of just started it. I fell into it naturally. And like I said, as I started to see results and get a little bit more joy out of it, I started to become more passionate and put more effort into it. And every year since I was a child, I've become a little bit more consistent, a little bit more passionate, put a little bit more effort into it. So my discipline has continued to grow over time because I just stuck with something for a while and want to see how it went, and it just kind of tumble affected. I was a young kid in my basement doing that with push-ups and pull-ups, and that's really what got me into the whole weightlifting, building muscle thing.
Passion, it's just not something that you find. From what I've understood, it really took him years to become passionate and to start going to the gym, to make it a habit. Passion is something that you need to cultivate rather than just, stumbling upon it. It's something I've come across time and time again in books, podcasts. For example, in the Kyle Newport, he talks about it in his book, So Good They Can't Ignore You. And he kind of dismantled this idea that you need to find your passion, but rather that you need to build it and that it takes time. And now in this day and age, when it's so easy to go on the internet and to find all of these people, on social media or wherever, that seem to be really passionate about what they're doing, and they just make it sound like it's some sort of miracle, some sort of thing that you, again, encounter in your life, and you're like, you have this click, and this is my passion. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. But it's really not like that. At least doesn't sound like when you listen to people like Chris Bumstead. Passion is a sense of deep appreciation that you develop for an interest in which you engage repeatedly for probably at least months and even potentially years. Now, it's obvious that Chris had an interest for the gym when he was young. He doesn't even define himself as someone that is disciplined, but just someone that found a really interesting hobby. Plus that, and he had a drive to become good at something. That's when he just found the gym and then pretty much decided that it was going to be what he would do for, not for the rest of his life, but for his early career.
I grew up in a town with some good kids, luckily didn't get stuck into anything bad. And we were all my friends were very passionate about sports, and I wanted to excel. So I kept putting myself in the gym. And at a young age, I remember I didn't have a car or any way to get there all the time. My parents would work late, and I remember I would run, even in the winter in Ottawa. It would be like a foot of snow on the ground, and I'd be jogging to the gym. It was about a mile and a half, but still a decent little run in the snow. And I was just super dedicated from a young age because I loved it so much. And as I mentioned, sometimes just being in the gym with my music and that focus was just like a point of solitude for myself to enjoy.
He purposefully decided to become good at this thing, good at his craft, good at the gym, to build his body, because he had interest, the gym, and then time spent in the gym, and that's when he crafted his passion out of it. And in his life, it made sense at the time because his sister and surroundings, they were active in the bodybuilding community. So the gym kind of appeared as the obvious route to take. That plus he had amazing genetics from his parents. And the most important thing is that in the beginning, Chris wasn't doing it because of any external pressure, any external rewards, any social media. He wasn't doing it because he wanted the fame, nor the success, nor the money. He was simply doing it because he was enjoying going to the gym, and also really important because it was a way for him to be alone in his own head and to find peace in the process and to deal with his thoughts. And that's something so crucial that I feel like it's lacking nowadays, honestly. Just doing something because you simply enjoy it. Doing something for the sake of it and not for any expected external rewards or praises. Cbum's passion for the gym started when he was 14, probably 15, when he took interest in it. And it then took him years to really make an inherent part of his life. To give you an idea, he started bodybuilding competition when he was, I believe, 19 or 20. So it took him at least 4 to 5 years of just developing it, going to the gym just because he liked it, just because he enjoyed it. He started through the interest, then found passion in it because he cultivated it, and then stayed for it for a long time. No, I think it's been 15 years.
So in essence, the more pressure you have on you, and if you take it as a privilege, it's a choice to put your perception as a privilege rather than a burden. And by taking the power back in that choice, it pushes you in a direction of being better rather than holding you back.
He has a saying that kind of defines his whole mentality, which is pressure is a privilege. Now, the fact that he talks about pressure as being a choice is something that's really profound, because it links to a sense of responsibility. If you decide to deal with the pressure, to listen to it and to use it in the right way, then you can use this pressure to shape you in the best way. And that's why people are, just saying that like, pressure makes diamonds. This is why. It's because this pressure, there's immense power found in that. If you can handle it, if you choose to take on that responsibility and embrace it. And this idea that pressure can be a tool is commonly found amongst athletes, kind of regardless of the sport, really. Because by definition, being the best at what you do comes with its own deal of pressure, as you simply have to do things way better than everyone else is doing them. Because you're competing against everyone else, so you have to do things better than them. And a lot of time, being better than everyone else is not found in amazing accomplishments or big efforts, but rather in small, consistent, and quality actions. That's true, especially when it comes to bodybuilding, because it's really about eating that meal at a specific time, making sure that you got enough sleep. That said, pressure, I think, is something that every one of us can learn to face better and use in our day-to-day life. Some people call it pressure, others will tend to call it stress, which I think makes it sound like they have less control over it. So I like this idea of pressure. This pressure comes from expectations that either people cultivate about you, and in that case it's called external expectations, or that those expectations are coming from within. Those are expectations that you cultivate towards yourself, also known as internal expectations, which is what Chris is talking about here. And in my view, the first step is to realize that you have external pressures that are onto you, and that as a man, you have considerable expectations from society that are resting on your shoulders. You have to be financially secure. You have to get the big job. You have to take on the responsibility. You have to have the great marriage. Stack on top of that all the distorted kind of expectations that social media are conveying, and you end up with this overwhelming batch of expectations that potentially can make you feel really inadequate if you're not meeting them. And here Chris talks about internal expectations because I think he's realized for himself that external pressure is not worth paying attention to. Because if you let external expectations from the outside world dictate who you are and who you should be, then you will basically never become the best version of yourself. As that version of yourself that you're becoming is just dictated by the world around you and not from intrinsic motivation that comes from within. That being said, there is something that we all need to face, and it's the choice that he's talking about. This is immensely important. This is the choice to take on the pressure and choose to use it to become better. Or you can just choose not to face it too, but you will then probably face a life filled with regrets. Because regrets, they usually come from actions not taken and not actions that you took but regretted. You will be able to use it if you accept to embrace the pressure, this pressure of internal expectations that's coming from within, but that's like aspirations, goals for yourself. Then you will be able to use it, and it's going to be able to guide you and to trigger motivation and willpower that you need in order to accomplish that vision that you have in your mind for yourself. That's how Cbum channeled the pressure he was experiencing into doing great things. So in his case, being the greatest bodybuilder of the generation. It is through considering it as an ally and not as an enemy. Now, I personally think that one of the most powerful things about Chris is his capacity to open up about emotions, and in particular negative emotions like anxiety, fear, and shame. In my opinion, this is most probably the reason why he's so much of a role model for young men in the fitness community, because he openly talks about his anxieties and shares his experience of it, like the real experience of it, authentic experience, which is really, it's pretty common amongst male role models that you see on social media, especially in the fitness realm.
I was definitely more leaning into the anxious, rather than depressed, and that was more like just projecting the future based off unhealed wounds from the past and fears of what happened in the past was going to repeat itself. And I'm just trying to build a lot more empathy and compassion for myself. Because I didn't directly shame myself, being like, you're not good enough, you're a piece of shit, all this shit. But I would be like, I expected more of myself.
He may be 6-time Mr. Olympia. He may be a successful business owner and a celebrity, but he's still human and he's still flawed like everyone else. More specifically, it appears that his anxiety has been an integrate part of his life ever since he was a child. And because of the way he was raised and his beliefs about masculinity that he picked up from his really what sounds like really stoic dad, it kind of acquired this idea that men should be unshakable and that they don't need help, that they shouldn't ask for help. On top of that, they probably should not be feeling negative emotions that are incapacitating. But as an anxious person, he describes himself as a sentient being, so he's really full of emotions that he senses inside of him. That just wasn't his reality. And the problem is that when your conception of who you are and who you should be, how you behave, it doesn't match your experience of the world, then there's a clash, and it triggers a profound sense of potential inadequacy and maybe even more anxiety. And the solution to that inadequacy is something that he found much later in life.
To me, that's being able to vocalize it out loud. And I think this is different for everyone, but for myself, I'm a very introverted person, and I tend to keep things to myself, and I have a brain that's very logical. But when I'm able to vocalize it and express it out loud and get the actual words out of my mouth, and then it's just all of a sudden like ease. And I'm like, oh, I feel a lot better now. I feel a lot more calm and relaxed that I've released it. So I think a big thing for me, it was not feeling feelings numbing, trying to feel feelings, but kind of logically mansplaining it over myself in my head. Mm-hmm. And then it was actually letting it out, giving it like the attention it deserves to be put out into the world.
The sequence you went through to try and ease the anxiety was first numbing, which clearly doesn't work. And it shouldn't be, if you use it, it should only be short term. Then the second strategy that he adopted was to find a solution to a problem rationally, but for a problem that was deeply anchored into the emotional world. Try to deconstruct the math problems using a poem. It's just it's not the same. There's a clash in the communication, in the language of it. It just doesn't work that way. And finally, the third thing that he found was to vocalize it. And expressing your emotions, your fears, and the sources of your anxiety is the most powerful tool. And in fact, it's really what modern speech therapy is all about. It's all about validating those emotions, giving them space for them to exist, exploring them, and then finding appropriate solutions to them instead of just trying to constantly repressing them. And this idea of vocalizing your emotions to someone is crucial, especially amongst young men, because I feel like it's something that is lacking in our current experience of the world. Because it's important that you find that safe space to open up about how you feel. Because the thing to understand is that those emotions that you may be feeling are not going anywhere. And if you don't adjust them, if you don't consider acknowledge them, they're just going to be piling up in the back of your mind, and soon there will be calm monsters because you're just constantly giving them attention in the back of your mind. Meanwhile, you're repressing them, and just like it just doesn't work. Honestly, it doesn't work. Your body uses emotions to tell you something it wants you to listen to. Okay? It's something that could probably impact your life and your decisions. So you should listen to those emotions and not avoid them. Otherwise, you're not going to be on track. You're not going to stay on track because you're kind of avoiding half of what your brain is telling you. And it makes sense because those emotions, they have been designed for your survival. And in the case of anxiety, for example, it's your brain and body telling you that there's a potential danger that's coming and that you need to prepare for it the best you can. Anxiety is this simulation of fear that your body triggers to allow you to find a solution before the real scenario, the real fear actually spawns. Now, besides this vocalization of the negative emotions that Cbum has found, he found another strategy, another solution, which is compassion. Compassion specifically for his younger anxious self, that struggle. Compassion is really being non-judgmental and welcoming younger and negative emotions and the inadequacies that he might have felt at the time. And for sure, cultivating this with yourself is also something that will definitely impact your success in life. Now, something I deeply resonate with is his definition of success, because it's much more profound and simple than what you can find in modern role models.
Well, we win a trophy, want a nice car and all this stuff, then you get it. And when you have everything, you realize this isn't what I wanted. I don't feel complete right now. And I have the amazing opportunity in my life to have accomplished so many of my dreams and realize that there's still a void missing there. The more money I get, the more titles I get, the more I get, it's not filling me up more. But then I discovered that over time, like, it's the effort, it's the journey. It's like suffering through times that I don't want to be at the gym or why I want to quit on my diet, and I push myself. And every single moment, every day leading up to the show, and I win all those moments, that's winning. That's like winning in life.
For him, winning is not about the big trophy. Winning is not about the car nor the money. Those things don't matter. Winning is just about being yourself and doing your very best to stay true to your values, to your people, to develop your relationships, to build the community. Because in the end, this is really the only thing that matters. On one hand, you have stepping on stage and having all this recognition and this moment of fame, the spotlight on yourself, but just for a couple of minutes. And on the other hand, you have this love, support, affection that you can receive from the people around you that will last decades, if not an eternity. Coming from someone that has won 6 Olympias, I think that this lesson is the most powerful lessons of all. The importance that Chris puts on relationships is something that he often talks about, because he's always thanking his team, his wife, and the people around him for their support and help. And I personally feel like our definition of success and happiness is highly directed towards those external rewards. And this is why we're always feeling like we're missing something. We're always feeling like once we get this promotion, or once we buy the car, once we marry the girl, once this or that happens, then finally we'll eventually be fulfilled and happy and find meaning in life. That said, I don't think this thing really exists. I think that in reality, life is about a series of different experiences, and that no money, no car, no yacht in the world will be able to give you this sense of meaning that you're looking for. Because humans are designed for growth, mastery, and they're always in the quest for meaning. Those material artifacts of modern life are not the solution to a problem that's human. And I'd argue that you're probably going to feel more misery in wasting your time chasing material aspect of things, as this material is completely depleted of life, emotions, and feelings. And as humans, we're wired to find a tribe, to feel like we belong, and to find this group of people who we love and that loves us back. I think that's the reason why Cbum emphasizes the power of relationships that much, because it goes along with the importance he puts on being himself, being authentic, and being seen as just who he is. And that's just not him speaking the truth. It's also something that science has come to find. A study of Harvard in 2017 found it came to the same realization that the best predictor for longevity and happiness is the quality of your close relationships. nothing else. So this Cbum mentality is a mental construct. It's something that you can apply to your own life. It doesn't rely on the fact that he has 6 Olympias behind him. It's a growth mindset, as Carl Dweck would put it. He says it himself. He's always learning and evolving and aspiring to becoming the best version of himself. And that's what led him to get all those extrinsic praises. But those are just an outcome, and it's not what you should be seeking. But this mentality, this champion mentality that he's been cultivating for years now, is the very reason why he's the best bodybuilder of his generation. He's a role model for men and an icon in the fitness industry. He's just always looking for ways to becoming better, and he does that while prioritizing the people around him and his relationship before conventional success. I hope this helps. Let me know what you think of this video. It was a little bit different. I might do a series of episodes if you like it, so just tell me in the comments. And as always, trust the process.